So I want to get started and just kind of get your initial reactions to Governor Evers' State of the State address this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a testament to what the governor has been able to accomplish in the face of incredible opposition from the Republicans. I mean, for the last 8 years, most of the time they've seen more gung-ho on trying to prevent the governor's agenda than working with him. But because we have seen such a political shift over the past 8 years since he became governor, we're now at this point where we saw postpartum finally about to be signed into law. Gale's law is about to be signed. There are a lot of Republicans who are on defense right now who have had to come to the table over the past few years, and we've seen really great results out of it. Almost 10,000 miles of road have been repaired. We've seen bridges in every corner of the state improved and fixed upon and strengthened. We've seen investments in rural broadband, helping small businesses get ahead and expand. It's when you look at the totality of what he's had to face with Robin Vos leading that caucus so effectively, it's really a testament to how effective he's been as a governor.
And we'll talk a little bit about the assembly here in a moment, but during that speech, we saw Republicans sarcastically stand up and clap, saying basically that Evers was taking credit for some of the bipartisan work, for example, those tax credits. Do you think the governor took credit for things that was done on a bipartisan basis?
I think Republicans like to criticize the governor when they find their opportunities and like to bash him when he has a couple of wins to rack up. So ultimately, there's a lot of folks in their caucus who are voting for these proposals that both parties have found middle ground on because, you know, the governor's not getting everything he wants, the Republicans aren't getting everything they want, but they're finding something that they can agree on. And so this sarcastic applause from the Republicans who have really made their agenda about sticking it to Wisconsinites rather than lifting them up, I think is just, it falls flat.
And you mentioned negotiations here. That's kind of the subtext for the speech we heard this week, which is those property tax relief negotiations. We saw the governor publicly strike down the Republicans' proposal during his speech. What did you think of that?
I think it's the right move. I mean, we're looking at a situation that Republicans have put us in by defunding education year after year after year. They are not hitting the investments that our state needs to make to ensure that local schools can support their teachers, can support the kids, can support the infrastructure that they need to make sure that the next generation, the people who are going to continue moving our economy forward, have the education and skills that they need. And so when we look at what is happening at this local level with property taxes going up, it is because the Republicans will not come to the table and put the money in that is needed to prevent that from happening.
Well, Republicans would point to the 400-year veto that allows school districts to raise their levy limit every year for the next 400 years as that property tax increase rate. The governor publicly said during that speech that that's not the reason. Republicans disagreeing again after that. This back and forth, what happens if nothing gets done on this deal?
Well, ultimately, I think that's what's so important about the 2026 midterms right now. I mean, we're looking at a situation where we only have to win 2 state Senate seats and 5 assembly seats to win back the chambers. And then looking at a candidate like Tom Tiffany, who's essentially the GOP's nominee at this point, his baggage is everything from abortion to the economy to tariffs. They have an incredibly weak slate of candidates who have a long laundry list of damage that is going to make them very unpalatable to voters. Folks who are going to look at what they've done in the legislature, what Tom Tiffany has done in Congress, and what they're going to see is that these are folks who aren't serious about coming to the table for real solutions for Wisconsinites.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the future of the chamber here, because also, again, during the governor's speech, he mentioned he wants lawmakers to stay in Madison. He said there's more work to be done. Do lawmakers have more to do, or should they be hitting the campaign trail?
Something we've seen with Governor Evers spending his life in public service and, you know, the folks who are in the building doing the work every day is that the work is never done. There's always more that we can do. I think the difference, though, that we're seeing is that Democrats have really been working at trying to get bills over the finish line, have been trying to deliver for their constituents. But let's just look at what happened 2 days ago with the postpartum negotiations. In the middle of it, Robin Vos, who I believe wants to hopefully be his successor, left to go do a fundraiser. I mean, this is something that has been on the table for years, that they have been roadblocking every chance they get. And so when we look at the seriousness of them coming at these issues, it's really hard to take it in good faith, because we look at 5 of the assembly seats. Almost all of them are in these incredibly tight, purplish areas where these are the sort of votes that are going to come back and haunt them. And so we look back at their history, they're trying to clean up their mess, but they've been stalling this for years, and I think that's what voters are going to hold on to.
So you're really giving that win to Democrats here, but this was done on a bipartisan basis. A lot of Republicans backing this too. We heard on the floor that Republicans criticized Democrats' move to add Gale's Law in the postpartum as an amendment to every bill the day before, saying that that almost blew up negotiations. Was it really just Voss against this, or do you think the Republicans have some blame here for the holdup too?
I think it's the Republican Party as a whole. I mean, the fact that Robin Voss was able to stall this for years, he's not on an island. You know, he controls that caucus, but he also has to get buy-in from his members. And if we look at folks like Pat Snyder in the 85th district, he is in a really tough spot right now. He has a very bad record when it comes to supporting women's health initiatives and legislation. And so while they might have something that they can try to throw into an ad, try to deceive voters and say, hey, I care, we have a very long list of examples showing that they absolutely do not care. So why are they coming to the table now and getting this done when they could have gotten it done years ago?
Let's talk a little bit about Robin Voss, too. That big announcement this week that he will not be seeking re-election. He has really acted as kind of the counterbalance to Governor Tony Evers, kind of crippling his power before he even took office. What is the Democrats' reaction to that announcement?
There's no one been more damaging to the state of Wisconsin, other than Scott Walker, than Robin Voss. He has spent his entire legislative career essentially trying to knock Wisconsinites down instead of trying to find ways to lift them up and make their lives better. And so good riddance to Robin Voss. He clearly is seeing the writing on the wall where he knows that those 5 assembly seats are in play. And in fact, there are more than 5 seats that we could absolutely take back and win this election. And let's look at everything at the state level and the federal level. It's not just here where Republicans are failing. Trump's numbers are tanking nationally. The GOP's numbers are tanking nationally. It doesn't matter if it's the economy. It doesn't matter if it's healthcare. It doesn't matter if it's immigration. Everything is sliding in the wrong direction. And credit to Robin Voss. He is a very, very savvy political player, and he saw the writing on the wall. It's no surprise that he's getting out now.
Are there any other players that the Democratic Party is worried about might step into those shoes next?
For the assembly? Not particularly. I mean, they're all sort of cut from the same cloth, but they're all born in this era of obstructionism. I mean, a lot of what we see at the national stage, Wisconsin was the test lab for that under Scott Walker and Robin Voss. And so we have a big slate of legislators who for years have felt comfortable living in that space, being obstructionist, not getting things done. But we have seen the tides change here in the past 8 years where they now actually have to do their job. They actually now have to deliver for their constituents, and it's putting them in a really tricky spot. And whoever does come in and fill Voss's shoes, whether they hold on to the majority by a slim margin or we get the majority, they're going to have a bear of a time holding that caucus in line.
And we can't really talk about elections without talking about these new maps that we got in the last 2 years. That's really coming into play. I want to kind of swing back to the governor's address because one thing he also called for was to end partisan gerrymandering. We saw the assembly is adjourning for the year this week, but he said he would call a special session to take up a constitutional amendment. Should gerrymandering end in Wisconsin?
Gerrymandering absolutely needs to end in Wisconsin. And what we need to do is take every tool in the wood shop and put it to use, because what the Republicans have been doing in other states, what they've been doing nationally, I mean, they now have a bill that they're trying to pass, though. It essentially say, if you're a woman who got married, changed your last name, and what your birth certificate says is not on your driver's license, you're going to have a really hard time voting. So they have seen the writing on the wall that with fair maps they are losing. Derek Van Orden, the congressional representative in the 3rd district, said, if we get new maps at a congressional level, I'm going to lose. And there's a good chance that my colleague Brian Stile in Southeast Wisconsin is also going to lose. And so we know that Republicans are rigging the game because of how bad they are both in-state and nationally. And so we have to be ready for that, and we have to do everything we can to make sure they can't rig the game in November.
Both parties have used that to their advantage.
Sure,
what happens when that goes away?
Absolutely. I mean, I think what we're looking at right now is a situation where Republicans have very publicly said, we're going to rig the map anywhere we can in our favor. What we're trying to do in Wisconsin is just make the map fair. That's what we saw at the state Senate and in the Assembly. And we saw what happened in 2024. There was a massive swing in the state Senate. There were Assembly candidates who now had to face voters who are now actually moderates, low propensity, swing voters. And so it's really changing the dynamics of those races. But even at the national level, with them telegraphing everything they're doing, congressional maps here in Wisconsin are not fair right now. They did not follow what the state Senate and what the state Assembly maps did. And so we need to get to a place where we're there, and then so that wherever you live, whether it's Bayfield, Milwaukee, you have fair representation.
We have time for about one more question here, and I just want to ask about the realisticness of this actually getting through, because we could just see the legislature gavel in and gavel out on this measure. Do you think it'll actually get taken up?
I I think like a lot of us, we're not really in the speculation business anymore. But what I will say is that regardless of what happens, we have to be fighting every single step of the way, whether it is on the gerrymandering fight, whether it is figuring out ways to get legislation through like Leader Neubauer did. Those are the tools and the things that we can use to make sure that Wisconsinites are fairly represented and making sure that their representatives are actually doing things